Hello, my friend. Welcome to another practice. Take care with loving kindness. I'm Chelsea. This is Luna. We're going to give her her treat and force her to stay on camera while she eats it. Thank you for being here today. We're going to focus on cultivating love and kindness for yourself. We often, especially in the last 3 years with the pandemic and everything that happened, we were really focusing on expressing loving kindness for everybody else, being understanding, being kind, being considerate for what everybody else was going through. But today's practice is taking the loving kindness for yourself, which for some of you is probably going to be pretty difficult. This is something that I constantly have to work on. So if you're in that boat, I am right there with you, my friend. You will need your mat, block, bolster. If you don't have these things, no worries. I provide some modifications, totally all right. This practice is pretty chill. We're pretty gentle because I really want you to focus on that gentleness and that understanding for yourself and meeting yourself with that compassion and care that we often use our energy to meet other people with. I want you to bring it inward today. Might be tricky, might be a little hard, but you deserve it. And when you come from that space for yourself, the worlds can just align and all the heavens open up, and it's a really great place to be when you can get there. So grab your stuff, and I will see you in a wee little bit. Hey there, yogi. Welcome to today's video, Take Care with Loving Kindness. I'm going to have you start by building the yogi ramp. So you can take your bolster and your block and build a ramp. You can have it at the lowest setting or the medium setting, depending on how far back you want to go. If you don't have these props, totally okay. You can take corpse pose, you can take half corpse pose, you can do reclining butterfly, just a comfortable rested position to start. Ideally on your back, but if you're on your side for the first few moments with your breath, that's completely all right too. If you do have the yogi ramp, you're going to take the bottom of your back and you're going to bring it to the bottom of the bolster. And then you can lie back. The goal here is to get your chest nice and open. So you can, if you're in this position, you can either straighten your legs all the way down. Maybe you plant the feet, maybe you take butterfly legs, so do your thing. And take a few moments to really settle in without any judgments or expectations for your practice. So if you're one of those people, or maybe it's just a habit you have right now, I've been doing this way too much lately, where you're like, I should do this, or maybe I should do that, or maybe I need to do this, or maybe I should do that, and that's better. If you can kind of like quiet that down a little bit and really just feel into what position is best for your body and not let your mind run things for a wee little bit. So coming into that position of rest, if you're on the yogi ramp, really feeling into the heart space and settling in with your breath here now. Taking your deep breaths down into the belly, expanding in all directions with the belly as you breathe in, and releasing completely to the bottom as you breathe out. Taking a few more breaths this way. You're going to stay down. I'm going to pop up. Feeling into the breath, so noticing how you are actually feeling. No attachments, you're observing, you're playing the role of the looky-loo, essentially, but without being judgy, like looky-loos often are. Taking a moment to remember you are exactly where you need to be right now. I've been struggling with some pretty bad anxiety lately. Summer has different vibes for me. It's great, but there's a lot of stuff that has happened this summer and has happened in the past that kind of brings up some trauma for me. And yesterday I was having a particularly anxious moment, and my husband reminded me that you are exactly where you need to be right now. And it's okay if you're anxious. You don't have to try to stop it or fix it. You're not broken. I was like, okay, in the middle of, me crying. But so same message to you, my friend. If you're anxious or you're off balance or something's not going quite right or you expect to be in a different spot or whatever it is, it's okay. You're not broken. You don't need to fix anything right now. It's so easy to get hard on yourself and not really even like realize you're doing it sometimes. So today with this practice, really coming at yourself with that loving kindness, that gentleness that my husband was speaking to me with when I was having that moment. So continuing to come into the breath and really, really focusing on how you can support yourself with full care, full compassion, full loving kindness. Staying with the breath. And maybe this looks like ordering something that you normally wouldn't order off a menu, or I do this where I talk myself out of things that I really want. I don't deserve that, I don't need that right now, it's okay, but I do it all the time, and so maybe you don't, and that's amazing if you don't, but if you do, maybe you let some of that frivolity in. Maybe you do take an extra 5 minutes to get out of bed in the morning, whatever it is. You know your life way better than I do, but yeah, sit with some of the things that you talk yourself out of, that you want to do, or that you put aside to meet the needs of others. We're going to go through a few rounds of some breath work. It's breath work. So you can continue to keep with your breathing, but you're going to inhale through your belly for 1, 2, 3. Inhale through your heart space for 1, 2, 3, and then exhale fully for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That was really hard to do with my fingers. So the goal here is and it's your count. I'm not going to count you out anymore. So however fast or slow it is, that's your call, your rhythm. So you'll inhale into the belly for 3, inhale into the heart for 3, and then exhale completely for 6. Really focusing on the count and expanding through the belly, expanding through the chest, and then letting it all go for that count of 6. Taking it as slow as you need to. No need to rush through this. We want to really hone in on watching the pattern of the breath and watching that count so that we stay with our body and we're not rattling around up here, essentially. So continuing to breathe this way, inhale for 3 in the belly, inhale for 3 in the heart, exhale for 6 all the way to the bottom. Continuing to move this way with the breath. Taking just a few more rounds, I'm going to give you some silent space to do so, and really, really trying to focus on that compassion and gentleness for yourself, even if you don't necessarily believe it or it's hard for you. I understand. Boy, do I ever. 3 into the belly, 3 into the heart, 6 all the way out. Continue with your breath for a few more rounds. Take one more round this way. You can come back to your normal breath after that last round. If you see my eyeballs wandering around, there's a fly in here and he's distracting me essentially. So I don't have like weird crazy eyes. I mean, I kind of do, but yeah, there's a fly buzzing about. Coming into your yogi ramp, just staying where you're at. If you need to position your legs in a new space at any time, feel free to do so. We're going to get into some arm movements. So I'm going to straighten my legs because that feels best for my hips today. So you're going to inhale and cactus the arms, reach them up and back, and then exhale to re-cactus. So your arms are kind of floating out either side of you, wide fingers. Inhale to reach, going nice and slow, getting into the mobility of the body. Exhale to re-cactus. Just taking 2 more this way, going nice and easy. Feeling into your heart space and really noticing the pec muscles as they ignite and activate when you're doing this. These are really good if you do have tight shoulder blades and pecs. I've been having some problems with my back lately, and so like these I can really feel in my pec muscles because my shoulders are so tight, which is very odd. The body. That was the last round. You can drop the arms. You're going to plant the feet for half corpse. And then pivot them to find the edges of the mat. And then as you exhale, slowly let your knees collapse in on one another. Resting here with the breath. There's that fly. And continuing to breathe into the belly, deep, deep breaths, expand in all directions, really fill up, and then exhale all the way out. Taking 2 more breaths here. Breathing in the love and compassion you deserve and you need. You can slowly part the knees, bring the feet back in line with the hips. Deep breath in as you exhale. You're just going to let the head roll to the right. You'll feel the engagement on the left side. Again, it'll depend on your neck muscles and where they're at in terms of stress and tension. I don't know why I'm doing robot arms, but here we go. While you're sitting, opening on that side, continuing through the breath, I'm going to tell a little story. I'm the bad guy in the story, so I'm going to tell it anyway. On Sunday, this last Sunday, and space and time don't matter in these videos, but anyway, we celebrated our 13-year wedding anniversary, and I had to teach yoga classes early that morning in Rapid City, and so my husband decided to go along, wait at the Red Lobster afterwards. It was amazing, but I woke up in a bad mood. Like I said, I've been having some back problems, and I was just kind of a shit. I was being a shit. I was frustrated and just kind of panicked about my back muscles and teaching, and my husband knows when I get in these moods to give me space, to leave me alone because I'm being pissy and I'm being a child about things, and so he leaves me alone, which is good because it's not his responsibility to fix me. And so at one point we were getting ready, and he just walked out of the kitchen. He was like, "Can I do anything for you?" And it was this big like, oh God, I'm being such a shit. And so I apologized, and it was just that small, like, he understood I was in a rough place. He didn't take it personally, and he asked if there was anything that he could do to help me get through this bump in my road. You can inhale to come back up to neutral neck, and then exhale, you're going to drop to the left, opening on the right side, and staying here for time. So it was just this beautiful moment, and granted, like, our anniversary probably was making him be a little bit more gentle. Meanwhile, in my mind, I knew I wasn't behaving in a great manner for him, and it was stressful for him, and I was trying so very hard to cover it up because it was our anniversary, and I didn't want to be a shit. But him just asking that one simple question, like, meeting me with that understanding and that true compassion, I was so grateful for it, and it was a really good way to transition into my yoga classes and talk about it that day. So see if you can meet yourself the way my husband met me when you get into these difficult situations. Seeing if you can come at yourself with understanding instead of taking it personally and being hard on yourself, which is tricky, and I completely understand that. You can bring your neck back to neutral. We're going to pop up off the ramp, so you can move your block off to the side. Bolster is going to stay as it is, and we're going to start on our back. Well, we started on our back already in supported fish pose. If you don't have a bolster, I'm going to move that way so you can see. You can either lay in corpse pose. Maybe you just take a little bit to like push your shoulder blades together, lift the heart, and hold here for a little bit. You can take fish pose, which is up on your palms and your forearms, and then you can droop back like this. And maybe your head comes all the way down. Like I said, I've got tight everything, like upwards of the tummy, so I'm not gonna back bend too far. If you do have your bolster, bring it back to the small of your back, and then lie down so your torso is resting. Open arms, open heart, and continue to kick it, or not continue, but kick it in your supported fish. We often take a lot of energy to support other people during their time of need, and we're very understanding when somebody else is having a hard time. But when it comes to us having a hard time, we can be very nitpicky and like, oh, I shouldn't be this way right now. I need to fix myself. I need to shove this down so I can get all the things done and so I can make the other people happy. And stuff like that doesn't really work. I am speaking from personal experience. That's why my shoulder blades and my chest are all super tight, because I've been neglecting my own personal loving kindness, I guess you could say. So take this position to really breathe into the heart space and see if you can be very gentle and caring with yourself, with your thoughts, being intentional. Maybe you're going to speak to yourself like you're a toddler or like you're somebody learning something new. So coming with that softness, that understanding. I know I've been saying understanding a lot, but really, like, it's so helpful when you give yourself a damn break. And it's not easy to do. I completely understand. We're going to take 2 more breaths here. As the breath rises, see if you can bring up the level of loving kindness and meet yourself with it. Being soft and serene, and know that you deserve that support from yourself. You can slowly push yourself up, right? You're gonna flip over now. We're gonna do some like low back strengthening stuff. It's gonna be pretty gentle though. So lying down on the bolster, your head will come off. So your forehead, maybe it grounds down, maybe it doesn't. We're gonna do supported cobra swims, essentially is what these are. So you can either have your hands next to the bolster up topsies, or you can have them rest at your sides with your arms straight out to either side of you. Whatever is best for your body, play around with it if you haven't done these before. You're going to inhale to come up to almost a neutral spine. Maybe you go back a little bit further for a tiny bit of extension, but we're not doing full cobras right now. We're taking these like itty bitties. Tiny, tiny movements. I'm going to scoot forward on the bolster a little bit more. So you'll inhale to come up, and then exhale to release back down. Using a little bit of strength from the tummy muscles. And then exhale to lower. Take 3 more of these. Staying as slow as you can, really focusing on the breath and the motion pairing together. After that last one, bring your hands up for support, and you can push yourself up to tabletop. You're going to move the bolster out to the side. You won't need it for a bit. Come into tabletop, and then begin your cat-cows. Inhale, belly drops. Take the gaze in front, and then exhale to press yourself up into cat, really staying fluid with the motion, intentional in the body. And if you can, stretching into those spots that are a little bit tense or a little bit tight, and maybe you're feeling loosey-goosey, and that's amazing, and I really hope you are. I want that for you so badly. I want it for myself too. Let's be honest. You can take any other motion you need in your cat-cows. We're going to stay pretty gentle. We'll get into a little activation, but really just taking note of how you think, what's going on in your mind, and practicing switching that up if it's not helpful. If your inner critic is being too hard on you, maybe giving them a backseat place in your mind space, especially for your practice right now. Not resisting, and just focusing on holding yourself in a space of light. We all make mistakes. I almost swore a bunch. Cheese and crow. Do we ever? Perfection isn't a thing, as much as we would like it to be sometimes. Those of you, my fellow perfectionists, you know what I'm talking about. But see if you can try to practice meeting yourself with fluidity and with acceptance versus rigidity. It's always a hard word for me to say, rigidity. So when we resist, it's a lot harder to get through things. But when we're more fluid and full of understanding, it can make the process a little less tricky. I'm not going to say easier, because sometimes things aren't easy. Like, it doesn't matter how you frame them. Take 1 or 2 more rounds in your cat-cows. Come back to your neutral, step to your high plank, and then take your down dog. We're going to be here for about 2 breaths. Next inhale, you can step your feet to your hands. Maybe you do a hopsy, completely all right. Forward fold. Move into your halfway lift, and we're actually going to stay in the halfway lift. We don't really do that, but stay here for a bit. Press your hips back, stay with the breath, reach the crown forward a little bit. Feel into the strength and stability in your legs. Neutral spine, so you've got 4 lovely curves in your spine. So feel into those. Deep breath in as you exhale. Let's drop back down to the fold. Inhale to come up to extended mountain. Exhale to move to your fold. Halfway lift. Forward fold. Reach to extended mountain. Palms come together. Drop to heart center. As you inhale now, you're going to take your arms nice and wide. Big stretch with your wingspan. Exhale, you're going to wrap your arms around you. Nice, gentle hug. Maybe your fingers are on your shoulder blades and you want to massage those up a little bit. Coming into your breath, root down through the soles of your feet. And bring to mind something that you can do to care for yourself. Something that makes you feel really good. Doesn't necessarily have to be a necessity. Maybe it's a want, maybe it is a need, maybe it's both. But for me, I really like to do my nails. I don't always have a lot of time for it, and with me being in the pool as much as I am, like they don't last very long. I've been into Color Street so much, it's so great. But so when I want to pick myself up, I make time to do my nails. I plan it out, and then I have something that I can like look forward to, and I know that I'm doing something that I enjoy and that makes me feel how I want to feel. You inhale to come back out, open those wings, and then exhale, you're going to cross whatever arm was on the bottom on the top. So I had my right on the top, so now it's on the bottom, left's on the top this time, and then you can continue to massage. Might have a slight bend in the knees if you're locking. There's no might. Please bend your knees a wee little bit. Maybe it's going for a walk. There are lots of things that I do just to keep taking care of myself. I'm still really hard on myself about these things. Like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing more self-care, but I should be working more. So try not to put so much pressure on yourself if you're in that type of headspace. And these things change. I'm not always this high-wired when it comes to my day-to-day tasks. Sometimes though. You can inhale to come back up to open, and then exhale, you're going to drop the arms. Open the palms, close the eyes down, mountain pose, soft shoulders. Maybe you wiggle out a little bit just to find that rooted connection to the planet with your feet. Come back into the breath if you lost it along the way. And continue, and maybe you already have that thought of that one thing you really like to do. I prioritize walking my dog almost every day because it's a good break for me. I get out in nature, it's very helpful, and then I focus on the shapes of the trees or the color of the sky, just anything to keep me out of my head because that's where my anxiety lives. But again, remembering your mistakes happen, it's just part of life. So learn those lessons if there's a lesson to be learned, and then move it along. You're doing a really good job. And as long as you're doing your best, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter what other people think. Doesn't matter what they want you to do. It matters what you want to do, as long as you're not hurting anybody else along the way. Intentionally. Like, people are going to get hurt. Let's be honest. It happens. But keeping your spirit and your values for you, and then bringing that loving kindness out to everybody else after you practice it for yourself. One more breath in your mountain pose. You can kind of wiggle things out. Maybe you wiggle your toes. We're going to do a self-massage that I learned at the South Dakota Yoga Gathering. I went at the end of the month, at the end of June. It was so great. And I usually go with the intention of learning new things for my students. And this time I didn't do that. I went in with going solely for myself, which I felt guilty about in the beginning, and then I kind of like let that go because we all deserve to take time for ourselves and do things for ourselves without having an underlying motive. So anyway, back to the self-massage. You're going to use your the bottoms of your hands, so you're going to push down on the thighs, and then as you come up, you're going to rake up with the fingers. So raking up, pushing down with the bottom of the hand, rake with the fingers, and just kind of dig into those spots in your quads. Maybe you go back to your hamstrings. Maybe you're going to go all the way down, all the way down to your shins. There is some stuff going on down there with me. But pushing bottom of the hand and then raking back up. Maybe you dig into your hips a little bit this way. Really go where you need to go. Staying with your breath. Really taking care and make sure that you're not hurting yourself. Like if it's a hurt so good, that's great, but don't be rough. I do that sometimes when I'm upset with myself, is I'll be a little like rough when I'm like combing my hair, and then I'll catch myself and I'm like, oh, I'm not being very nice to myself right now. Like I should knock that off. So take a couple more rounds, pushing down, bottoms of the hands, raking up with the fingers. And then coming back up, shake that out. You raked out some negative energy, hopefully. You're gonna take your legs wide. And during your yoga practice, whether it's with me or in a different class or by yourself, really take note of what positions feel best for you. Whenever I'm warming up before I teach or when I'm doing my own personal practice, I'm always going to a standing straddle, always. It feels really good on my hips. I like how it gets my legs nice and open, and then I can, see, I'm popping my hips. You can bring the hands down to the floor. If it's a little too far, you can grab your bolster and tuck it under your hands too. Or if you have some books or something that you can prop up on, maybe there's a coffee table near you that you can like catch. If you have a chair, you can hold on to the bottom of the chair. So really going where is best for you. Hinge from the hips. 2 more breaths here. You can tuck your fingers if they're on the floor, and you're just going to pivot your feet a little closer together. Left hand will stay down. Take the right hand high, and your gaze can be at the floor, or maybe you take it off to the right. So we do this in our forward fold, but we're going to do it with wide legs today. Notice how you're speaking to yourself if your brain is talking to you. And see if you can flip the narrative. Sometimes we just have to surrender to our thoughts and they are what they are, but sometimes it's good to practice controlling them. Lately I've been spiraling. You can exhale to drop that arm and then switch, reaching the left one up. I've been spiraling into these weird scenarios that they won't ever happen, but I worry about them regardless. And it's something I spent most of my 20s doing. So I've been noting and I've been shutting them down and getting back into my breath. Like, okay, that's not real. That's not happening right now. Come back to the present. Breathe into the belly. So wherever you're at, if you're having a tricky time, remember your breath. Come back to the breath. It's not always going to be a quick fix, but it might help. As you exhale, come back down to that forward fold. Inhale to come up, neutral spine, and then exhale, you're going to take goddess squat. Now I'm distracted. There's this deer that jumps our fence, and she just like hangs out in the yard, and she's back. She normally knows the times that I take Luna out, so she's not in the yard, but today she just doesn't give 2 Fs, and she's doing her thing in our yard. We must have tasty goodies that aren't everywhere else in the forest. 2 more breaths. You can straighten, come back to your standing, and settle into your mountain pose. Watch where your shoulders are. Shake the body if you gotta shake the body, and hold here for some time. In your mountain pose, knowing that your soul is a safe place. It does not judge. You are your soul. So you're here for you. At the South Dakota Yoga Gathering, I had the opportunity and the blessing of doing this really cool guided meditation that was one-on-one. And that was one of the things that came up in the meditation was your soul is safe. It's not judging you. The things that have happened to you in the past aren't your fault. Some of them were out of your control. At the end of the day, they're experiences. They're lessons you can learn and grow from, not reasons to guilt and shame yourself. Take 2 more deep breaths down into the belly here. And inhale to come up extended. Exhale down, forward fold. Halfway lift. Forward fold, step or hop to high plank. And you're gonna move to your down dog. We're gonna do just a little bit of activation today. Like I said, this is pretty gentle, but I did say we were gonna activate, so we'll activate. In your down dog, check that position. Notice your shoulders, notice your knees, your heels. Not in terms of, oh, I want to get the most perfect down dog I can, but in terms of just being aware of where your body is and what shape it's making. Inhale to take the right leg high as you exhale. Step to the outside of your right hand, taking our lizard pose. Drop that left knee. Toes can tuck or untuck, up to you. Maybe you're staying on your palms. Maybe the elbows drop. Maybe you want to go a little bit deeper into sensation, but can't make it all the way down with your elbows. You can grab your bolster or any sort of prop that is around you and come into your lizard pose. Opening on that right side. And being with the breath to release the tension and to focus on opening up. Allowing yourself to just be in the present. I often have all these narratives for myself. As I said, I have all these stories that are spinning in my head, but with that comes a lot of expectations and where I should be or what I should be doing or how many students should be in my class, instead of like just surrendering and being with what's coming in. It's not easy. But it's a good thing to practice, absolutely. You're going to tuck your left toes, and then as you inhale, lift that knee for a lizard lunge, gently pressing your left heel back behind you, stretching your calf. Mine's hitting my glute a little bit, so just really tracking where the sensation is and seeing if you can open up to it and open up to that loving kindness that you're trying to cultivate for yourself. You can step to high plank and then move to your down dog. Maybe you walk your dog out, maybe you stay still. You can come back to stillness. Take the left leg high on your in-breath. Exhale, step outside of the left hand. That was a big old clump. And then drop the right knee this time for your lizard on the other side. Again, palms down. Maybe you bring in a prop for some support. No shame in that. And then taking a moment to see what the difference is from side to side. We're not comparing. It's just a good way to map out the body. This is what I use my yoga practice for. You're going to use your yoga practice for something completely different, but you know, we might weave in and out of why we do yoga and have similarities. But I use my yoga practice to map out my body when I practice for myself. And I do kriyas every morning, so that's when I really take time to check in and try to like meet myself with intention instead of just going through the motions. And if you're trying to work in some self-care into your routine, take baby steps. I do my kriyas, I do 3 of them for 2 minutes each morning. Well, it's my 6 minutes, and then as I said, like I usually walk my dog. So these are little things that I can easily accomplish that I won't feel bad about if I don't get them done, or I won't like be hard on myself if I can't accomplish them every single time. Tuck the right toes, inhale, lift the right knee, lizard lunge on the other side. Taking 2 more breaths here. And in terms of loving kindness for me personally, you can step back to high plank and take your down dog. For me personally, it's all about staying present, because when I am spinning my wheels, I went to a really big event last night. It was a funeral for somebody I went to school with, and this morning I was like, did I say the wrong thing to this person? Did I act a weird way to that person? And finally I was like, it doesn't matter, because they're not thinking the same thing that I am. You inhale to come forward to your high plank. We're going to hold here for 2. Come back to your down dog. And then you can hop or step to hands, forward fold. Halfway lift. Forward fold. Rise, extended mountain. You're going to sit back for chair. Again, just a little activation today. But I was like, this isn't what's happening right now. Like, you're just projecting what you think people are thinking about you, and it's none of my business. It's none of my business what people think about me. If they have a problem or I did something wrong, they'll tell me, but I didn't do anything wrong. Like, it was totally fine, because that's not the way things work. And so if you get into that headspace and you think like, oh, I wronged this person, you probably didn't intentionally do it. If you did, then own up to your shit, absolutely. But most of the time, we're just being hard on ourselves. You can inhale to reach extended mountain. Exhale down for your fold. Halfway lift. Forward fold. Come back up to your extended. And you're going to take your chair pose again. Not for very long. So we're gonna drop back into a rock and roll. If your body doesn't move that way, get down onto your back however is best for you. So you can drop the booty back, take a few rock and rolls. And on this last one, come into your happy baby. Opening and taking your hands wherever they need to be. I'm in a peace finger. My body's a little stiff. Move and groove as needed. We're just going to be here for a couple more breaths. Come back to center and drop the knees towards the heart. Rock side to side. And return to center. And move to your corpse pose. Maybe the bolster comes under your legs. Do your thing. But get comfy and lie back with the breath, with the body. Being completely here in this moment in time. Not in a moment in time that has not yet come to pass, or one that has already passed. Stay present. Staying with the breath. The event I went to, I learned a lot of really good lessons. It was a very emotional night. The person that was being honored was, I didn't know him a lot, but from what I did know him, he was just a really remarkable person. And so last night it really got me thinking, like, there's not a lot of time. We're all here on limited time. Be authentic, be vulnerable, love all the loves, do all the things, and really shine who you are. Because we all have these really beautiful gifts. And it would be such a shame for you to talk yourself out of not sharing them. So sitting with your breath for 5 more, sitting with your full splendor and your full glory, as you truly are a beautiful human. When you're ready, you can wiggle out your toes and fingers, deepen the breath through the belly, if you haven't done so already, to come back to awareness. Take a moment, roll to either side, fetal position, eyes closed. In this moment, remember you matter, you're important, and you are loved. When you're ready, rise to a seated position, hands at your heart, eyes closed or open, it's up to you. Thank you for sharing your time and your space with me and for your support. I'm honored to be here with you. And I just want to take a moment to dedicate this practice to the man we lost much too soon, Nate Sanders. I hope you're flying high, buddy, doing all the fun things that you want to do. Miss you forever. To you, my friend, with all the love and so much light, namaste.